Folks, we're exposing 9 coconut milk brands today, and I'd bet a few of them are sitting in your pantry right this minute. You grabbed one because it seemed like the healthy choice. Clean label, natural, maybe even organic. Here's what most people never find out. Some of these cans leach hormone-disrupting chemicals straight into the fat. Some of the biggest names carry a preservative the FDA requires them to disclose for one specific reason. It can trigger serious breathing reactions. And one brand quietly swapped one dangerous compound for another and never told a soul. I've been putting up my own preserves on this farm for over 45 years, and I'll tell you, the can matters near as much as what's inside it. Today we're covering 9 to avoid and 2 that actually held up, working from the lower concerns to the most serious. The one at the very top of this list is a cult favourite, a $3 can that recipe bloggers keep recommending. And what's inside it is something the FDA specifically requires on the label for respiratory safety. Let's get into it. Start with Goya coconut milk, the blue and yellow can, a fixture in kitchens across 3 generations, not because of advertising, but because of real trust built over decades in Hispanic households across this country. Grandmothers reach for it, their daughters reach for it, their granddaughters are reaching for it right now without a second thought, and that depth of loyalty is exactly why it's worth knowing what's really in the can. Independent analysis has flagged this coconut milk for polysorbate 60, an emulsifier that animal studies have linked to gut inflammation, and right next to it, guar gum, a thickener tied to digestive trouble, particularly in older folks whose intestinal lining gets more vulnerable with age. Open a can and there's a faint chemical undertone under that coconut sweetness, a greyish-white film sitting on top that's not cream separating naturally. That stabilizers drifting in fatty water. Then there's the can itself, historically lined with BPA, bisphenol A, a compound that migrates into fatty acidic contents like coconut milk faster the longer that can sits warm on a pantry shelf, which is exactly where most folks keep it. For anyone managing blood pressure, taking blood thinners, or dealing with IBS, that combination matters more than a quick label scan would tell you. Next, Thai Kitchen coconut milk, the clean white can with blue script, sold at Walmart, Kroger and Target as the simple weeknight curry choice. Most shoppers don't know this brand is owned by McCormick, the big spice conglomerate. That detail never shows up on the packaging. The standard version contains guar gum and comes in cans that aren't certified BPA-free, but the bigger concern is what FDA import alerts have repeatedly flagged on Thai coconut imports. Sulfite residues used during processing that never show up on the finished label. The can opens with a sharp, acidic edge under the coconut aroma, and a few bites into the curry there's a faint sting at the back of the throat that most folks blame on the spice. It's the preservative. Sulfite sensitivity gets more common with age, and anyone with asthma, COPD, or a known sulfite sensitivity can feel their breathing worsen within minutes. The FDA requires disclosure once sulfite concentrations pass 10 parts per million, and import alerts show Thai coconut shipments routinely testing above that line. McCormick's response has been silence. Then there's a taste of Thai coconut milk, the slim can with the restaurant quality positioning, promising Bangkok-level flavor in 20 minutes. The marketing's effective. The ingredients don't back up the premium. Independent testing on imported Thai coconut products has turned up inorganic phosphate additives, compounds introduced during processing to extend shelf life. For anyone managing chronic kidney disease, a condition that touches a real share of Americans over 65, those added phosphates accelerate bone mineral loss and vascular calcification. Aging kidneys just can't clear the excess the way they used to. The light version makes it worse, thinned with water and more stabilizers, which dilutes the medium-chain fatty acids that give coconut milk its actual nutritional value in the first place. You're paying for coconut. What you're getting is phosphate water, with most of the good fat stripped out to hit a price point. Now, silk coconut milk, that half-gallon carton in the dairy aisle signalling plant-based wellness from clear across the store. Read the ingredient panel and you'll find less than 2% actual coconut cream. 2%. Everything else is filtered water, Jalan gum, locust bean gum, and in older formulations, carrageenan, a seaweed-derived thickener that peer-reviewed research has tied to intestinal inflammation. The flavoured versions carry 8 to 14 grams of sugar per cup, more than a chocolate chip cookie poured straight into the coffee of someone who switched specifically to be healthier. The vitamin D in there is the synthetic D2 form, which the body doesn't absorb near as well as D3, a distinction that matters more with every decade past 50. Pour it into hot coffee and it curdles at the edges. That's the Jalan gum failing under heat. For anyone managing type 2 diabetes, using this daily as a coffee creamer can move blood sugar readings in the wrong direction over time. And for folks on metformin, carrageenan has been shown in published research to interfere with how that medication absorbs. Right behind it, So Delicious coconut milk, the Instagram staple stocked at Whole Foods and Sprouts, priced like something better is inside. This brand specifically targets the shopper who already reads labels, who's already ruled out the cheaper carton, and the ingredient panel doesn't reward that trust. Jalan gum, locust bean gum, and one of the most abused categories in processed food, natural flavours, a designation that's legally allowed to conceal glutamate compounds and processed sodium without ever naming them. Several flavoured varieties carry more added sugar than a standard can of Coca-Cola. That's not plant-based wellness. That's a sweetened beverage in a carton with a coconut tree painted on the front. For anyone managing blood pressure, that hidden sodium can push readings up within hours. For anyone tracking their A1C, the sugar load makes the job harder every single morning. Then there's Cheoko coconut milk, the orange and white can with the smiling coconut, once a Costco staple sought out for its thick, almost custardy texture. In 2021, Costco, Wegmans and Stop & Shop all pulled this brand off their shelves after investigations confirmed the supply chain relied on forced monkey labour, pigtail macaques taken from their mothers as infants and chained to climb trees for shifts up to 16 hours a day. When that came out, the major retailers walked away. The brand didn't disappear though, it just shifted over to smaller retailers and online platforms, where fewer folks have heard the story. And the sourcing scandal isn't the only concern. These cans have tested positive for BPA migration too, the same endocrine disrupting compound running through much of this list, with a specific risk of insulin disruption for adults who are pre-diabetic or managing insulin resistance. Sanitation records from the parent company have also flagged recurring mold contamination in their processing facilities. Next, native forest coconut milk, the earth-toned label, the eco-conscious packaging sold at Whole Foods and natural grocers, aimed square at the shopper who already does the research. This brand built its whole reputation on one promise: BPA-free cans. That's real, and it matters. It's also only half the story. Independent testing found measurable levels of bisphenol S, BPS, in these cans, the very compound the canned food industry switched to once BPA's hormonal effects became too well documented to ignore. Published research is now raising the same concerns about BPS. Comparable endocrine disruption, similar ties to insulin resistance and thyroid function. The industry swapped one bisphenol for another and called it progress. This same product also contains guar gum, which has a documented interaction with levothyroxine, the most prescribed thyroid medication in this country, reducing effective drug absorption by up to 30% in a single dose window. Someone who takes their thyroid pill in the morning and reaches for this at lunch isn't getting the full benefit of that prescription. And the shoppers most likely to buy this brand specifically to avoid bisphenol exposure are also, statistically, the folks most likely managing hypothyroidism. Then there's 365 by Whole Foods Coconut Milk, the house brand of the store that built its whole identity around the promise of cleaner food. Just carrying that Whole Foods label tells a shopper someone already checked. Here's what that trust is actually resting on. This coconut milk is co-packed by third-party manufacturers in Thailand. The same processing infrastructure and sourcing region flagged in those FDA import alerts for undisclosed sulfite residues. Same supply chain, different label, higher implied trust. The standard version contains guar gum, and independent analysis has placed its actual coconut content at around 60%, while better performing brands in this category run 80% or higher. Open a can and the cream is thinner than it should be, separating fast, the flavour arriving for a second and fading almost immediately because there simply isn't enough real coconut to carry it. 60% coconut means 60% of the nutrition you thought you were paying for. And that brings us to the worst offender on this whole list, the cult favourite, Trader Joe's coconut cream, the $3 can that shows up in every recipe blog with genuine enthusiasm. Trader Joe's has built one of the most loyal followings in American retail around a feeling that you're getting something honest the big chains can't match. Here's what's actually in the can. Potassium metabisulfite, a sulfite compound used as a preservative. The FDA requires sulfite disclosure on labels for one specific reason. Sulfites are tied to serious, sometimes life-threatening reactions, from hives and throat constriction to full asthma attacks and anaphylaxis. By age 60, roughly 1 in 10 adults experiences some form of sulfite reaction, often without ever tracing it back to the source. Open the can and beneath the coconut there's a sharp chemical note that doesn't belong. A few spoonfuls in, a mild scratch at the back of the throat. For someone with developing sensitivity, a headache follows about an hour later, usually blamed on stress or the spice level of the dish, never on the can. For anyone on corticosteroids for arthritis or COPD, sulfites can interact with those medications in ways that reduce their effectiveness or worsen the very symptoms they're meant to control. These cans also aren't certified BPA-free, putting this brand in the same category as every industrial name on this list, just with a friendlier logo and a fan base large enough to absorb the criticism whenever it surfaces. That's the full avoid list. 9 brands, real documented concerns, some at the ingredient level, some in the sourcing, some just a gap between what the label promises and what's actually in the can. Now here's the part that actually matters. 2 brands went a different direction entirely, and the difference is obvious the moment you open them. The first is Native Forest Organic Simple Coconut Milk. Same parent company as the brand we just covered on the avoid list, but a completely different product. That difference is the whole point. This simple line was built specifically to fix the failures of their standard version. The ingredient panel reads organic coconut, water. That's the whole list. No guar gum, no polysorbate, no locust bean gum, no carrageenan, no natural flavors hiding sodium. Nothing that isn't coconut. These cans are documented as both BPA-free and BPS-free, with third-party testing published by the company to prove it, which is genuinely rare in this category, not as a marketing line, but as an actual practice. It's USDA organic certified and non-GMO verified, meaning the coconuts are grown without the synthetic pesticides that keep showing up as a concern across non-organic Thai supply chains. Open a can and the cream is thick, nearly solid at room temperature. That's what real coconut cream does before somebody cuts it with stabilizers. The aroma is clean and tropical. No chemical edge, no sting at the back of the throat. For anyone on levothyroxine, the absence of guar gum means the medication absorbs the way it's meant to. Runs $4 to $5 a can, about $1 more than most brands on the avoid list. Given what you're actually getting for that dollar, it isn't a close call. And the one that sits at the very top. Aroy D Pure Coconut Milk, sold in a shelf-stable Tetra Pak instead of a can. That one decision, getting rid of the metal can altogether, eliminates the BPA and BPS problem right at the source. No lining, no bisphenol migrating into the fat over months on a shelf, no trace chemical aftertaste hiding in your curry. The ingredient list has exactly 2 items: coconut extract and water. No gums, no stabilizers, no sulfites, no carrageenan, nothing masking sodium. Lab analyses consistently show coconut content around 85%, compared to 60% for the Whole Foods house brand and even lower for the diluted light versions we covered earlier. You'll find it at H Mart, other Asian grocery stores and online. And the carton format solves a real practical problem too. You use exactly what the recipe calls for, seal it back up, and refrigerate the rest. No half-open metal can rusting around the rim in your fridge for the next 2 days. Pour some into a glass and the cream moves slow, the way real coconut fat behaves, coating the inside of the glass with a clean, unmistakably tropical smell, and nothing synthetic underneath. Heat it in a pan and it folds into curry smooth, the way coconut milks worked in Southeast Asian kitchens for centuries, long before gums and sulfite stabilizers came along to make the industrial version cheaper to produce. 0 sulfites, no guar gum, no carrageenan, no hidden sodium. Relevant for anyone on thyroid medication, blood pressure drugs, or corticosteroids, where absorption and drug interactions matter. And it runs about $3 a carton, less than several of the brands sitting on the avoid list, with more actual coconut in it than almost anything else on that shelf. So there it is, 9 brands with documented ingredient problems, flagged supply chains, regulatory alerts, and in one case, a sourcing scandal serious enough that major retailers walked away entirely. Most of it hidden behind labels saying the exact opposite of what's really inside. 2 brands went a different direction, and you can taste that difference the moment you open the can. Tonight, go check whatever's sitting in your own pantry. Look for guar gum. Look for potassium metabisulfite. Look for carrageenan, polysorbate 60, and locust bean gum. Look for natural flavors and ask yourself what's actually hiding underneath that word, because the brand isn't required to tell you. The 2 worth keeping in your kitchen are Native Forest Organic Simple and Aroy D in the Tetra Pak. Both say exactly what they are, and both have removed the concerns that every other brand on this list chose to live with anyway. The labels haven't changed. The research behind these concerns isn't new. What's changed now is what you know standing in that aisle.